How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Legion's Lounge. I'm your producer, Matt, here with your host, CEO of Future Lore Studios and Legion's Realms at War, Taylor. How's it going tonight?
Oh, it's all right. It's been a long week, and great to be back doing the podcast again. And
It's always
you
great to
know,
be
we're
back.
with we're with a we're with a special guest again tonight.
We are.
Uh, one of
We got
one of
Ambassador
our
Jacob.
one of our great fan ambassadors has been pulling a lot of work for us here in Canada. And Jake, how's it going tonight, man?
Going good. It's going good. Glad to be on.
Well, we're glad to have you,
Excited.
man.
Oh yeah, it's good to be on. So I
What's the topic tonight, gentlemen? Or technically this morning, you guys, everyone's listening to this on Monday morning. So what's the topic tonight or today? And Matt, where can they find us for this podcast and future ones and the past ones? Where can people find us, listeners?
So you can find this on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Stitcher. Basically anywhere with like an audio service, we're there.
All the audio streaming platforms.
Yeah, all of the
right.
above.
You hear that, Jake? You can find your voice anywhere.
little intimidating there. A little
Not at
intimidating.
all, man. Not at all. So let's talk about the ambassador program. So like, first off, how did you find out about this game?
So I found out about the game at Fan Expo. The recent fan back in August at Fan Expo. I had my sister and I go every year. We've been going for years. I had actually specifically during that Fan Expo, I had decided to sell like the last of my TCG collection.
Mm-hmm.
So, funnily enough, I was there. I was planning on either the Saturday or the Sunday, or even the Friday, selling lots of my TCG collection, just getting a couple bucks, maybe buying some memorabilia or something, then use something. And then I had we had passed by the booth, and there it was, and I'm like, or was it me or was it my sister? I can't remember. I think it was her because she was looking for a TCG to play, and she's like, "Why don't we just try the demo?" And I'm like, "You know what? Sure, why not?" And so I tried. I played the test game with Taylor. I remember
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck on what Legion to try. He suggested Undead, and it was I really enjoyed the game. It reminded me of why I enjoyed TCGs, to be completely honest. So I mean, that was the start of it.
Exciting.
Yeah,
So
I remember that day specifically. I know when you and your sister came by, you both had your VIP passes. So I mean, you guys were some of the first people in, and um, or you had your a weekend long pass as well. So I think we actually met you on the Thursday.
yeah, it was a Thursday. We got premium passes just to not have to deal with the line, and it was or yeah, yeah. That
And
was
then you guys came down and sat down with us. I did a demo with you, and I believe your sister did a demo with Nancy, one of our game testers, and um, and then you guys said that you seemed to really like it. And I believe you bought a battle deck or something for you and her to try, um, and we put your name down and for a raffle draw that you ended up winning something, or either you or your sister ended up winning something. And
yeah. She ended up winning the Raylene T-shirt, and she was
yeah,
thrilled. I think each of us got a different battle deck because we both wanted to try the Legion that we played.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and we sort of tried it out, brought it home, and then the next day we came back and got more cards.
Yeah,
And then the next day we came back and got more cards.
I remember that. Yeah, you guys came back each day, and that was great to see. And you sat down for more games, and yeah, I think it was like the third time. I think it was on the Saturday. It was a really really busy day, and we had a small break in demos, and like I had a lineup all Sunday or all Saturday for demos. But I remember that we had a small little break, I got a chance to actually eat something, and then you came by, and it was a matter of instead of obviously doing demos, you're familiar with the game at that point. You just asked for some deck help and some building of the decks and stuff like that. And I know you took a picture of the demo decks we were using, and and then I know you started at that point. You already cracked boxes on the Friday, right?
Oh yeah,
So
we had decided to split a box, I think. And in the my sister ended up pulling the Guardian for Orcs.
Ooh, I see.
And then
Okay.
Viscera, and then we ended up splitting a Frontiers box.
Okay.
And she pulled, so we each took half the box, and she ends up pulling Overflow Magic.
Nice.
Right on, exalted right out of the box.
Well,
That's awesome.
Yeah,
such
that
a
was
good
on
card.
the Saturday after she wanted she wanted to figure out how to build Mythical Beast, and I was trying to figure out just more about how Undead and Titan worked. And that sort of was the start of it. I had
I know you had a Titan deck that you got a chance to play against AJ, because AJ came out there, our typical champion in most situations, and he came out and he actually sat behind the table and worked with you.
Yeah.
He's just awesome, bro. He's crazy good though. It's scary sometimes.
Oh yeah, that I actually have not played against him in any of the tournaments.
Damn.
Yeah, so actually, funnily enough, there's several legions that I just straight up haven't played against.
It's kind of the way it works out, I guess. I mean, we do have 8. It's a little bit more variety than most TCGs. Instead of just 5 colors, having 8 makes it a little bit more diverse. And then, of course, depending on who's piloting what and where that shakes out in a tournament, sometimes you play the same legion back to back. Sometimes you play the mirror match, and sometimes you get something brand new, right?
No, exactly. And I remember because like I remember for the 5K I was playing, and then I had I was playing against Undead. I was playing Orcs. Not a good matchup for Undead. And then it comes to the top 8 and then goes to the top 4, and I'm playing that exact same matchup again.
Oh, that's rough.
A little bit.
Rough.
Orcs and Undead, I've been on both sides of it. It's not fun as an Undead player.
Oh yeah,
it's rampage over everything.
It's it's the rock paper scissors element that we built in, and Undead's match against Orc is not favorable for the Undead. Doesn't mean it can't be won. I've seen it.
I've definitely won it before.
Yeah.
It's just much more difficult. You have to alter your playstyle significantly.
Oh, definitely. I actually think, though, personally, I've had more trouble against heroes than any other deck using most of my decks actually.
No, that's fair, and I think heroes against as most decks, you said?
Yeah, I've played against heroes as Undead, Titan, Angels, and actually I've played against them as every Legion, but the ones that I'm actually confident in my decks in for, and the only ones that I've had any luck against heroes is, demons, obviously, because
you can just steal their armaments. Yeah.
And aside from that, it's been about a 50-50 split with me playing Angels, and I think I just can't play well against heroes.
Heroes have a very strong negation package once they set up, right? So it's a matter of trying to break that down. And there's some decks that obviously are favorable against heroes. I mean, Mythical Beast can pick apart that negation package pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Demons can just strip it from them, right? But in a position where you playing Undead most of the time, you need your combo pieces to stick, and heroes shut that down. So.
Oh no, especially with like newly added like Dark Woods of Evergreen and all these new power pieces like Dark Woods of Evergreen, Glinting Lance of Xeon. If you try to remove their back row, like say you're playing Undead from like a Camellias, and you hit one of those, all your key pieces are just gone.
Oh yeah, that's I mean I've not on yeah, that's something that I've really struggled with play wise, and I mean everybody's heard my frustration about heroes against heroes, especially their negation and yeah. But I mean I've always the thing is that like even with the frustration, it's always a it's never a bad or unfun game. It's always the
Exactly.
matches have always been fun, and it's always a. It's not something that everybody is facing, so you can get sort of the advice from other players, and that's a big thing.
Exactly. The thing
Yeah.
is, I found about heroes is once you get past that initial like setup that they have, they really are struggling to get back
Yeah,
because
heroes don't have a lot of comeback pieces. You break their initial setup, and you'd be able to push through them afterwards. But that's the thing, right? Like, I know that in early on, in the very early stages of the game, it was heroes won our first ever tournament when the game
yeah,
first launched.
Oh,
And then after that, Titans was discovered, and Titans ran away with the meta for a little bit. And we until some people got used to how Titans play, and it's all in learning curve for new game, new players, new style of play, and new set of rules, right? So Titans came back down to earth a little bit. Heroes did well against them in that match. Then Bountiful Harvest released, and it changed the course of the game. At first, people didn't notice it as much, but some of those key pieces became sideboard options, and it really started to alter how the game was played.
oh yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of people early on who didn't have access or couldn't find the Serena Sada. Um, so the people who did, you could see where some people had some advantages with that, but then a lot of people found a lot of success with Viviana, and that was the whole point of putting her as the rare guardian, easily accessible, because she was the first time in the game where people who didn't get as lucky as Jake is pulling some guardians in the early boxes were able to get access to one right away, and Viviana really changed the game. She helped you slow the game down and helped you accelerate when you needed to, getting the pieces that you needed. So she really changed the game in that regard. And I know, Jake, when you jumped in, we were already, that was Fan Expo Toronto, so
Yep.
we had already that was August, so we were a month. It was a month after we had
release Frontiers.
just released
Yeah.
Frontiers.
And I think the big thing about Bountiful Harvest was that like we're still figuring out plays with it. And it's still continuing to change the meta. And then with Frontiers I honestly think that well actually I wouldn't know. I've been playing with Frontiers, so I mean I don't necessarily notice the changes that Frontiers has made. Maybe a little, just from when I first jumped on, from some of the early deck lists that I looked at, and some of the early builds of the decks that I've used. But I'm still noticing changes that people have discovered a new combo based out of Bountiful Harvest.
Oh, 100%. Like I think personally, I think bounty cards are extremely overlooked. I think they're just seen as like, oh, we'll just put these in as filler. Whereas I've discovered new techs with bounty cards, and they're honestly quite powerful. Like,
Well, and yeah, that's the thing, right? Like with Legions being a tribal style of game where you have to play the one color, people find a niche. They find something that works for them in their color, and that's what they stick with. And a lot of people tend to either just use bounty realm cards as sideboard options, or like Matt said, filler. When you're just kind of placeholding for a piece you may not have, or that exalted you may be tracking down. But surprisingly, those cards have impacted the game and turned the tide a lot. And that's why I think it's really cool having you here, Jake, and having your opinion on this, because you weren't there in the very, very beginning. So you jumped into set 3. Now you come from other TCGs, right?
Oh yeah.
And a lot of experience with a lot of other TCGs. And I know, obviously, you probably when you jumped into Magic, they were probably 10 years in already at that point.
Yeah, thereabouts. My first game was around. Yeah, thereabouts. Thereabouts.
Yeah, and then with other games you jumped into, they're they were in different stages along the way of their release structure or how long they've been out for.
Mhm.
So as a player coming into a new game, what's Canadian made, jumping in at the set 3 like you did, is that daunting for a new player because you're 3 sets in, or is it kind of a sweet spot because you're not too far behind by any means, but you're relatively still in the beginning? How do you feel about that?
I think that it's not as like being on the first or second set, but I feel like it's sort of a midpoint. So the game's sort of starting to become established. So it's not there's I personally did not find it that daunting, but I think that um we're sort of in that time where it's becoming established, but it's still jumping on is still like it's a great spot, especially if you want to get everything and you're still getting it from the early days of play. Um it's so I don't think it's that daunting. I think that it's like I almost feel like getting on during set 1 might be more daunting than getting on during set 3. I feel like set 3's a pretty good point within the first, like, I also feel like it also depends on how long the game's been out. 'Cause the game's been out about 10 months now, I want to say. Sorry, a year and, no, sorry, not 10 months, not
Yeah.
10 months. A year and 4 months.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I thought 10 months. Because October and then
Yeah.
4 months past October, and October is the 10th month. But yeah, so a year and 4 months thereabouts.
Which I think is pretty good. And
Oh yeah.
speaking as from someone who's come from like the second set, when I joined the game, I joined it around May last year. I came into it going in like no knowledge, no anything, just picking up a deck and playing. I honestly found that having those like few amounts of sets was very helpful for me as a player because then I could really soak in and take in every single card to its face value, opposed to like if I tried to like go full into Magic to like today, I would be catching up for so long. Whereas with this, I was able to like look at the sets and take things in and actually like not feel overwhelmed by everything. It was a very pleasant experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like learning everything was so there there wasn't too much to take in, which was really, really good. And I mean the most intimidating thing I think is just wanting that growth with the game is like my jumping on point because it's already there, it's already started, and now you want to like I enjoy the game, so I want to see it grow. I want to see it. I had ended up after Fan Expo, rolling back a little. I ended up playing it playing it a bit, but then well, there was no local community, so I was looking around for a store. I didn't know of any game store local to me because at that point I had planned to ditch the last of my trading cards at Fan Expo. So picking up a new one, huge surprise there. So I was and then I had by chance actually I think I stopped by Negative Zone once ear- uh, earlier in the summer, and
Mhm.
passed it by. I talked to Alan, the owner, and I pretty much forgot about it because they weren't really doing much with TCGs. They were more comic based at the time. Still have a large comic collection, but there's more half and half now. And then I had stopped by. I had the day off, so I'm like, might as well stop. And I ended up talking. Turned out that they had started doing game nights for various TCGs, and I'm like, oh, well, I have this TCG that that I picked up at Fan Expo and haven't had a play group with, and it sort of clicked into my head. So um, I got really lucky, actually. I think that Alan was so willing to take on a new TCG and try new things.
Mhm.
Because a lot of other stores wouldn't be willing to try it, and we sort of tried to start up a play group then, and we had some initial success. Um, and then there ended up being a bunch of everybody's schedule sort of changed come November, so it come late November, and it was
Which is
bit,
typical holiday season, right? So people's
yeah, and
schedules,
then it
work schedules, family schedules all change. And
and we're sort of trying to get things growing again. There, I mean, part of the biggest things in order to ensure its success with a local group and growing a local group is consistency. It's also a bit more difficult when other people currently have a primary game that they're into and they're not falling out of. Um, and at Negative Zone, there's um, most people are really big into Flesh and Blood. So it's sort of a getting people to try the game has been, I mean, people are big into a game, they're not always wanting to try a new one. So it's been getting people to come out and try it. And the important one of the important things I feel is to not is to understand that maybe not everybody is into your game as much as you are.
Mhm.
And to the biggest thing I found is just saying, it's fun, maybe come out and try it. If you can't make it that like, let me know. I'd always be happy to teach you. Um, and I
I think
found
that
that's worked at Negative Zone.
I think you've done a really good job with that, Jake, in terms of the fact that, you know, being a relatively new store like Negative Zone is in downtown Toronto, but also, you know, them transitioning into TCGs a little more, they're new to that space as well. And then as a result, they latched onto Flesh and Blood, which, you know, compared to the other Goliaths in the industry, you know, Flesh and Blood's quickly becoming one of them, but they're still relatively new as well, right?
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
I think they're in year 3.5 or year 4 now, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so that's new players in a new store in a new community with a relatively new game.
I
So
yeah.
that whole concept of new um, is great for a store taking a chance on another new game because it's fresh to them and they see the success from the first new game that they brought in. But when players are just jumping in to learn at Flesh and Blood and trying to grow that scene, it's difficult to grow a second one for another game. So I can definitely see where you have you've had hit some roadblocks there
Oh
in
yeah.
some situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that was I had actually, because they did Commander on Sundays at Negative Zone, and it was like, well, might as well go out a bit more. Maybe other people will be interested in. I mean, it's always fun to talk games because very few people, well, I find, are only interested in one game. Maybe they'll only play one TCG, but they might be interested in like a video game or different types of games. And I love games, so so I started going to that. Got a few people to try lead well got a few people interested in trying legions, and I ended up going to started me started me going to 401 games again. And
for those who are listening, not only just in Canada but also in the United States, Jake, what is 401 Games and what is the significance of that store?
so 401 Games is the largest TCG store. I know in Toronto. I'm pretty sure it's in Ontario or maybe even.
It is the largest in Ontario for sure. Yeah.
Maybe largest in Canada too.
Yeah, there's only I think only Face to Face is
the only other
competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's huge. And I started going there again to their Toronto location. 401 has a location in Vaughan and a location in Toronto. So I started going to their Toronto location again, and I as always I bring my Legion's playmat. So it just nice big playmat. And people had asked what it was, and I gave me the idea. Well, why don't I ask them about the tournament organizer about setting up a learn to play for Legions? And I they were originally unsure, and they said, well, they'll think about it. And then they it actually happened after one tournament. I had been talking about Legions to another one of the players there, and he's like, you know what, sure, after the tournament, like we'll play around. I'm interested to learn. So I ended up doing a teaching game, and the tournament organizer, I am blanking on his name right now. I know it.
That's okay.
But I'm blanking on his name right now. He ended up stopping by and seeing the play, and he's like, "Oh, is that Legions that you were telling me about?" And I said yes. So following that, he showed more interest in getting it in. And then, Christmas holidays happened. Things take time to
settle back down.
Yeah, settle back down. So, and now things are looking like they might be doing a learn to play. So it's I'm really excited. It's the 401 Games is huge. There's
So their event schedule is packed with every game under the sun, pretty much. And
yeah, so even getting a single night a month is like, even getting them to do a learn to play is huge.
Yeah, exactly. And like prime example, it just shows the work and the effort that you put in, and you're one of our crucial fan ambassadors, right? And you've unlocked like the tier 1 and tier 2 fan ambassador for Negative Zone, and you've now unlocked tier 1 of fan ambassador for 401. So because they reached out to us, and we got an email from the tournament organizer and event organizer there, and he seemed very keen on bringing it in. He says not only yourself but a couple other people have asked him about it now because they've seen the playmat, they saw some gameplay, they were interested in taking a look at it and running a learn to play event. So I know I joked around with you in a private conversation, but it was just like, this is huge news for us. Coming off of for those of you listening to this right now, we're coming off of unfortunately an unsuccessful Kickstarter campaign, but that doesn't mean by any means that we're shaken. If anything, it was a big learning experience for us, the first time in a crowdfunding site, and we're going to run it back. And we got some other ideas, some other plans, some reworks with the set. But hearing this news from both you yourself, Jake, and hearing it from the event organizer at 401, like having a game store of that magnitude,
is
reach
like
out.
Amazing.
Yeah, reach out and want to plan something with you as a homegrown TCG. And he really liked, and he even highlighted that in the email, was that he really respects that it's local, right? That it's here, Canada made, right? So I think that's excellent that we have that opportunity. And I know I joked around with you about let's Avengers Assemble, right? Let's get I'm going to tap into all of our Canadian play groups and see if we can put together some monstrous turnout at 401 to really show the community push and the community growth behind it thus far. and you get one opportunity to make a really good first impression. So I want to call on everybody and bring them in, and let's do a really good bang up job there at 401. I think that would be excellent.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially after I mean, I've been calling places, stopped into one or two, but mostly it's just been calling and just having 401 say, yeah, no, well, it's so huge, and I'm so like there's players in Toronto. It's just Toronto's big, and there's players in the surrounding area.
Yeah,
And
like GTA, you got like 3.5 million people there, right? And even if you have 1% of those as players, right, that's a huge demographic of people and players. And I think that's excellent. It just goes to show the amount of effort that one community member, one individual can do. And I think now more than anything, this is like a call. This is a beacon, a call out to our community members that, like, look at Jake is a living proof. Like, Jake is the one that has done it. He's put the work in. He's reached out to stores. He's got it into one store. He's trying to get it into another. 401, it could be a turning point for us. So we can look back on this moment and be like, you know what? Jake helped turn the tides, and that's amazing, that it really goes to show how much our community means to us and how much work that they put in. And if we can get the community out to really help and support that, we're gonna, we'll make sure that we make it worth your while. We'll make sure that we make it worth the community's while, and let's grow this thing, man.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's growth is so like that's I'm so looking forward to like the growth of a Toronto community. Because the players are there. There's just no home base, so to speak. And existing players, new players, seeing that is just going to be so fantastic. I think for everybody, both current and new.
Yeah, I mean, and foot traffic alone in Toronto, at a store that size and that has that great of a reputation, I think that
That will
overall,
go so far.
it really means a lot. Like, you're right there, you had a tournament organizer come up to you and witness you and one other player playing, and that sparked his interest. So if we get to a point where we have, you know, you and a player playing, and then we have a couple other people playing on a different night of the week or on the same night of the week, and two people turns into four, and then four into six, and that's the incremental growth, because ultimately, we produce beautiful play mats. We honestly believe we produce beautiful cards.
I believe so.
And
Yeah,
I think they're eye catching, right? So when people walk by and see it, like you said, Jake, people love talking games. People love being around, discussing games, learning new things, even if it's not necessarily something they want to jump into right now. There's a whole concept, and I know it's saying that it's like out of sight, out of mind, but if it's in sight, it's in your mind, right? Like you see it, and now it clicks with you, or if you recognize it and be like, hey, I remember that game where this person was in here earlier and talking about it, and that's the growth, right? It's
Exactly.
organic, it's
Oh, yeah.
grassroots, and it's a lot of work. But if you have people like yourself who are devoted and are willing to put the work in, us as a company, I know me personally, I'm going to back you 100%, and we'll make a push. And if it means that we set up a learn to play there, but a couple weeks or a couple days or whatever before, that we make the extra trip down there beforehand, walk in on a super busy night, walk around and literally sit at a table with a group of guys or girls playing another game, and when they're done playing their game, just slide a booster box their way and like, let's crack this open together, and give out some free demo decks and some stuff, and like just sit down and experience a box opening with them, because whether you're a fan of the TCG or not, you have to admit, as a TCG player,
Oh yeah.
opening up a box of cards is like Christmas, right?
Oh yeah.
It's so fun.
Nothing better. It's even when going to a store and just somebody else is opening a box at the table, it's just sometimes you'll get a few other people sitting down at the table looking on, and like, you get anything good, it's always, I mean, it's Christmas.
Yeah, and so I think that's where we're gonna try and lay that out. We're gonna be kind of communicating back and forth with 401 now, thanks to you, and We're gonna hammer out a date to do a learn to play, and then when we figure out that, we're gonna go a couple weeks ahead and kind of prime the scene, and prime the player base, show up, give out some free product, get people talking and buzz about it. So then when 401 inevitably advertises that they're doing a learn to play, we have already we're already in people's minds, you know.
Exactly. And so, speaking of sets, how do you feel about Empires?
Oh, I mean, I'm both really looking forward to it and kind of dreading it.
Why is
I'm
that?
kind of dreading like all my carefully learned play play lines being smashed with that hammer that is Empire.
Just being flipped on your head because you have a
Yeah,
whole bunch of new cards to learn. And
Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, so
I mean, at the same time, I'm looking forward to it disrupting the current current play is a little static. Um, Little, not very, but I feel like even recently there's been a few upsets with. I mean, Demons not taking first is, and we're seeing a lot of different decks. I mean, I'm very happy I brought Angels to top 8 at at the Battle for Glory.
that was awesome to see because that was a pure angel list, Jake. That was really awesome to see.
mhm.
Yeah, and I'm looking toward seeing like new legions, new decks. I'm looking even like I'm looking forward to seeing the huge change in play. I mean, I'm sort of dreading all the different control. As a I mean, I might be a control player, but I hate playing against control.
Fair enough. So you play undead. So speaking of control, do you think you'll stick with Mortis or you think you'll go Malady way?
I I honestly do not know. Um, Undead is probably my go-to legion.
Hmm.
I probably play Angels the best. But Undead is probably my go-to, and I think that I really like playing Mortis, and I feel like I might do like I might have 2 Undead decks.
Oh no, I'm
Like
100%.
I'm one for like higher level play and one for casual play.
Yeah, no.
I really like how Mortis plays. However, but I'm seeing and I mean, I see a lot of different combo potential with all the Grim Wars and stuff, and and really enjoy how current Undead plays. So, but at the same time, I have some really, really nasty ideas for the Melody deck.
Yeah, no, Malady's gonna be very interesting because at least in my opinion, the way that it feels currently, is it feels like it's a deck where you gotta keep like all your key pieces on, which
I feel it. So I'm big on tempo decks,
oh okay.
which I mean, the Angels, current undead, they're all tempo based, and I feel like Melody's gonna be yeah, Melody. I I don't know why I'm
No,
stuttering
you're
over
good,
it,
bro. You're
but
good.
Okay.
I feel like it's almost gonna play a bit closer to the tempo, Angels tempo,
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, very much
than
so.
Undead's tempo. So I might Mortis might be still be my favorite, but I'll probably be playing a lot of Melody.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Malady.
it seems like it's a good mix between the two decks that you really enjoy. So
But I'm the same way. I love angels. I love undead. Started to really find a feel for orcs as well. But so I'm excited for Malady. It's gonna be disgusting. I love it.
Oh yeah. I
Slowly
mean,
just I don't know, destroying the
I'm
board state.
kind of dreading Orc theft.
oh
I'm
yeah.
Um, Orc
very
stealing
excited for Duxbox.
stealing units.
I mean, to be fair, they don't. There's even with what we've spoiled so far, and the way that the game flows, at least from our over a year full of testing of empires, that you'd be surprised. On face value, it'll appear that Dux Fox wants to steal a lot of pieces, but they're just a small cog into his much bigger machine.
Exactly.
Because ultimately his deck is generate counters, remove counters, detonate the bombs, and do effect damage.
I am a huge fan of board wipe. So
Yeah.
I might pick up Dustwalk.
Yeah.
There's a very real chance that I could be an orc player. It's I love generating counters, and I like my board wipe.
So if you're a board wipe fan, I have to ask what was your opinion on Abraxas, the Mystic Fire Sphinx that got spoiled, the mythical beast exalted?
It's good. I want to play it, but Myth Beast, I sort of feel like a lot of the play style, it's destruction and not board wipe based, or at least currently. I've been paying attention to, I've been paying a lot of attention to Dustbog stuff because of the lore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been paying a lot of very close attention to Angels, Titans, Undead. But I thought, and I'm like, oh, am I also going to be playing Myth Beast? If they get more board wipe, I might be playing Myth Beast.
So speaking of Titan, you said you've been paying attention to Titan, and you said you're typically a tempo player. That's one of the things you like, but you also like to play control. And so where do you feel that Gaia fits into that, the new Titan Warlord coming?
I feel like Gaia's it's a different type of control. It's especially in bestowing blockade onto the opponents. I want to play around with it. And I can say it's interesting. It hasn't quite so like Melodies has really just right away I'm seeing playline. Castiel, I can go on about how the
Angel playlines.
all the angel playlines. But I won't. I will save that for one of the first tournament I use that deck in.
All right.
Castiel's gonna be
keep it close
fun.
to the chest. I like that.
But let's just say Castiel Thefria might be a thing.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've thought about that so much.
Oh
Castiel just go boom. It's so fun.
So being a more experienced angel player and being able to pilot pure angels to a top 8 finish, just as recently as this past weekend, where do you feel like obviously angels are the least represented in the current game state, current meta, but do you feel that that's going to drastically change with Empire's release?
Not right away. I do not think it will change right away. I think that people will probably stick with, okay, these are the legions that are getting the most play, are going to get the most play for probably the first tournament or two. And then once people start to get used to the new warlords, I think it's going to change. Now, whether people are going to be, I don't think Angels is going to become too much less forgiving of mistakes. I know my first 2 games I made a few misplays. I mean, I made one. I had completely misread the effect of Calf Seal because I was like, there is no way that this card is that good. It is way too tempo.
Mm-hmm.
So game 1 and 2.
You missed that he couldn't add himself back to hand, eh?
Yeah, I missed I could add himself back to my hand. So I was every turn I was Bloodborne 4, playing Bloodborne 4 off of its Ascension of the Sephrium, which doubles counters and can add me as Sephrium back to my hand. I was doing that instead of something else, and that was I don't think it would have done too much in my game 2 against Pet. It might have made it go to game 3, but I don't think it would have done too much otherwise. But it might have won me game 1.
No, fair enough. Personally, for me at least, I think right off rip, you're gonna see a lot of Castiel, a lot of Duxbox, and a fair bit of Malady.
Oh, I'm
And I think
That's
people are gonna
that's
get very frustrated with Malady because
I think that's
she's
an
complex.
interesting. I think that's an interesting take because coming out of the gate, I think with Empire's release, I do agree with Jake very much so that I think a lot of people are going to stick to their old warlords because that's what they're used to. They're just going to splash some of the new cards coming in Empires into their deck. They're going to tweak it out, figure out those play lines. And then there's going to be the brave few that go into release day tournament and they're going to try a new deck with a new warlord and just try and learn trial by fire.
Mm.
But
trial by fire is a great way to learn.
yeah. I just think that the warlord that's going to see early push out of Empires and the deck that's going to probably see pick up some early wins at Empires before people know how to play against it is going to be Ethelheim and her Alehouse Dwarves.
Oh yeah,
Ethelheim.
no,
Oh, I forgot about Ethelheim.
I think she's. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Ethelheim and
Yeah, no, Ethelheim's gonna be
I
so funny.
I think that a lot of people are going to shy away from Angela because of dice roll.
Yeah, Angelica's dice roll. Yeah,
I feel like people will shy away from it, but I think it's gonna be very funny because I think I can think of a few people in my mind who will go right to Angelica to really
they're going to try and make it work for sure.
and just be like, all right, let's roll some dice and go at it for like the entire game. It'd be so fun.
Yeah, I'm like the one thing war deck that I'm sure is going to be picked up right away is as Matt had mentioned, Dustfog.
Yeah, no, I think
Duxbox will see play early. Yeah.
Yeah, that we'll see play right away. I'm not sure if Malady or Castiel will be picked up right away. I'm almost tempted to say that I think that Dustfog and Ethelheim will be right away. Those are the two that are going to be picked up. I'm interested to see what I can do with Miss Beast.
Mm-hmm. I haven't really
Because the
figured
new
out
Miss
Marisod
Beast
yet.
has the destroying unified and fortified effect of the warlord and
Wait, sorry, which mythical beast are we talking about? Shalara or Marisod?
Because Shalar is the incremental board destruction over time, right? Where Marisod is going to be is the new warlord coming that's going to generate the eggs, and the eggs hatch into dragons. And
right, there was. Okay, I might be thinking of a different card. Am I just thinking of the Exalted? I think I'm just thinking of the Exalted.
yeah, probably yeah.
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 But I feel like there's a lot of board. The eggs are actually I feel are going to be a really powerful card, really powerful mechanic that has a lot of potential.
Well, and speaking of Exalteds, then if you're talking about the eggs having a lot of potential, I know we spoiled the other mythical beast Exalted, Bind the Dragon Soul, and that's the one that makes it so all of your sprites in the eradication zone
become dragons.
Yes, they all become dragons.
Oh, yes, that.
So then now they're all hatch targets for the eggs.
Oh, I didn't even. Oh, damn! I didn't even think about that. I was just like, this. Yeah, you can shuffle things back. You can shuffle your sprites back. This is good. We like this. And then I was like,
now they're hatch targets as well.
Is that like? Wait, hold on. What's Millennium do again? I forget what Millennium does.
So I really like the fact that, and as we talking about empires here, and we were talking earlier about that grassroots growth, I think that with Empires on the Rise, we, like I said, I'm doing a little bit more retweaking and retooling for the new Kickstarter we're running back on it, and downshifting the warlords from renown to rare. I think that's going to be a lot better in terms of, I mean, I wasn't too worried about accessibility before because all my number breakdown said that you could build a deck out of the box at a 92% rate. But now this makes it as that you can like almost 100% of the time as a new player buying a Empires in the Rise booster box that you can build an entire deck out of one box. So
Exactly.
I think that's a really big boon for the community, both existing and new. But having we're also going to be bringing back the original 8 warlords in second edition in this set as well, so that way across the board we have a new allegiance mechanic in the game that says that you can only play certain cards with certain warlords. So having access to all 16 in one box is going to be very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we were talking in the spoilers channel, we had that was the concern that I had brought up because I was like as you had mentioned, building it right out of the box, and I'm like, well, wait, that'd be a pretty bad feeling to pull Michael's final
Final Wrath.
Michael's final wrath.
But not have Michael.
Not have Michael.
Yeah. So yeah, we wanted to make sure, and I mean, you're going to hear it first on this podcast. I mean, I'm going to be spoiling it anyways, but you'll hear it first on this podcast that the other 8 second edition renowns will be the synergies. From Ravaged Lands.
Oh, okay.
So we felt as though bringing those back were pretty quintessential. We have plans for the Guardians coming up, so we wanted to make sure that because when you really look at the game as a whole, based on the rules and how it's built, the Guardians, although are obviously what you want for competitive play, but they're not essential for learning the decks and learning the game and teaching new players. So we wanted to make sure that you had all the access to all the other essential pieces. And so with Empires already giving you Warlords, Veil Realm, Synergies, and Guardians, and then us reprinting the other synergies from Ravaged Lands, as well as reprinting the first 8 warlords as well, you now can legitimately build at least 1, if not 2 decks out of one box. So that's what we really wanted to have that for players, because instead of at this point in time, we can't make the set and new starter decks, particularly since we have starter decks still in existence anyways. The main focus was to encapsulate a new player. You can literally get 1 booster box, build a deck, and learn to play all out of the one box. And so that's why we wanted to bring the synergies back, because then it really gives you variety in deck building as essential game pieces.
Exactly. And so how does that change the so that keeps the same amount of rares in the set, correct?
Yes. So the only thing that changes really is just ultimately the size of the box. So when we originally designed it,
so sorry, I cut you off there.
That's okay.
But so this means that I think 4 renowns per box and 1 exalted every 2 box?
Yep.
Still going to...
Yep, they will still stay the same.
Okay, that's
So
wow, that's really
so we really wanted to make it so the original box, like I'm holding it in my hands right now, obviously you can't see it on the podcast, but the original box when it was designed in its prototype form was actually 15 card packs, 18 packs per box. The only decision we made when we went to launch it to Kickstarter is we wanted it to make the biggest impact as we possibly could. So we were going to up the count to 24 packs, but realistically, both with the way the Kickstarter went, but also just trying to make sure that it was the most affordable option for both us and for new players, we ultimately went back to my original design. So I'm pulling out the old original algorithms that I designed for the set. And so now it actually works on a pack by pack basis. You actually just get more value out of the box, because ultimately, even at 15 cards per pack, 18 packs per box, 1 booster box is 270 cards when you open it, which is more, it's just 30 more cards than Ravaged Lands. And Ravaged Lands was our best set. So already, like, you're getting the box for cheaper than you would buying Ravaged Lands, and you're getting more cards than you would buying Ravaged Lands. And so I think for a new player, like this is the set to start with, because not only do you get more cards and better value, but you also straight away you get a better pull rates on absolutely everything. Um, because now that we're adjusting it back to 18 packs per box, you still get 4 renowns in a box, so that works out to 1 renown every 3 packs, which is amazing.
Amazing.
And then your 1 and 2 exalteds. So then when you look at it, when you really break it down, now the cases are break down by 6 boxes in a case. So now you're still getting your 4 renowns per box. So for the players that are really deep divers like Jake here and many others in the community, you get a case of Empires. You're getting 6 boxes times, so that's 270 cards times 6. So your collection doubles in one purchase, but also having it where now you're getting 4 renowns per box, right? Your renowns are just double what it would have been when you bought Ravaged Lands. And then the exalted pull rate we kept the same as Frontiers, because I think the community overall really liked that, at an exalted 1 per every 2 boxes. So it ended up being like a really good chase factor and a nice sweet spot. But then introducing the original 8 Ravaged Lands exalteds back into the game as well. I know you, Jake, as a guy who's been hunting as a set collector, you're missing just the Kindle Hoss from Ravaged Lands, right? The elusive dwarf.
Just that one. People have been such a big help with me collecting it. I'm just so grateful. Like, it's an amazing community we have. That people are always willing to lend a hand to help each other. I know when I was building some teaching decks, I was missing a card or two, and I didn't want to risk something happen to the ones in my master set, and people were willing to throw me some of the cards that I was missing. So yeah, and just 1 card left. So hopefully somebody will be willing to trade their first edition for a second edition and something else if I can't get it beforehand.
Well, I know that there's some people in our community already talking about that, is that the adding the second edition exalteds in, and we're keeping them the same pull rate as what Ravaged Lands was. So that they are still going to be 1 and 4 for the second edition exalteds, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't overprint them to diminish the first edition's value, but we also still wanted to have them reasserted back into the community as well. Especially for the people who are coming in Empires on the Rise and entering into the game, wouldn't necessarily have access to some of those pieces from Ravaged Lands right away, right? Or in existence, because Ravaged Lands was so small a print run. So
yeah,
we wanted to make sure that they had access to them. So I know a lot of community members were already talking about how if they open a second edition Exalted, they'll probably either trade their first edition to someone who's wanting to complete their master set like Jake is, or they'll just get their first edition Exalted graded and slabbed.
I'm in that same boat. I like the first edition. However, it doesn't make a big difference to me. If someone's going to complete a master set, I probably am not going to be able to, just given my circumstances. It's a little more difficult for me to. However, like if you pull a Kindle Hoss, you trade that to me, and then I don't know, we can figure it out. Like, most, if not all, my exalteds, except Void Hollow, of course, are all available for like second edition trades. Most.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean that's part of the thing that like makes Legion so great, is how great our community is. I mean, everybody's always friendly, willing to lend a hand. It's fantastic.
Well, I really like the fact that our community is very open. They have the ability to private message me too, and I can get one-on-one feedback and one-on-one discussion with our player base and our community, because ultimately you guys are what help. You're the reason why the game exists. So of course I'm going to listen to your feedback, and that you're the guys that are wanting to play the game, try it out, grow it like you are, Jake. I think that's excellent. And I'm not gonna lie, I was on the fence whether or not I was going to include the original 8 warlords in, but after that discussion I saw you have with some of the other community members, I was like, well, I'm retooling the set anyways, let's throw those in.
Mhm.
because it just makes sense. And so right there, like, your discussion changed the outcome of this box before it was printed.
No,
Yeah, and I mean, being able to get feedback is, I mean, might be probably a double-edged sword, but it also must be such a huge help to notice things that might have been overlooked or might have been, well, as you said, like something that you're on the fence about. And like I mean, a lot of people brought up the great point of, well, they're already available in the battle decks and as box toppers, and oh, I certainly understand that. But if I'm a new player,
You want to buy one product, you don't want to go hunting for stuff, right?
I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna want to. Well, I've bought this box of Empires. Why do I have to buy this box of Frontiers? Or why do I have to buy a battle deck?
Yeah, you should want to buy those and not have to buy them,
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
and
And
that's
and I
so
think
that's why we really wanted to focus on Empires in this little bit of a rework here as we relaunch the Kickstarter coming up in March. That our 100% focus is gearing it towards helping our existing community members, since they gave us such critical feedback this far, but also being the set that is the core set, the starting point for brand new players.
exactly. Of course, there's going to be like key
I mean,
pieces that are in Ravaged Lands and Bountiful Harvest, but you could mostly get those as singles. And
Yeah.
like, and I think that's something that just happens with the age of the game, right? It's like you can't expect Magic to, reprint every single commander or
oh yeah,
or anything like that just because it's been out for so long, and there's that kind of there's
Well,
already a large enough establishment, I feel.
yeah, and in card games, you have to have that point where there has to be the baked in collectability, but there also has to be that threshold where you have to make cards playable. But
Exactly.
you also have to make cards desirable, but you also have to make them available.
Mhm.
But at the same time, there's always that intrinsic value of cards baked in that the secondary market creates, right? That is out of our hands as a developer. So we had to make sure that we pay attention to that intrinsic value that the community has created, because we don't want people like Jake, who invests a bunch of money into the game, buys all the cards, collects the master set, only to reprint all those cards and then just diminish everything, all the work and effort and money that you put in. We don't want to do that, right? So we want to find that
Exactly.
delicate balance, and that's where that feedback from the community is so crucial.
No,
and
exactly.
I feel like that very clear, that first edition shield, the non-foiling, and the like the when it's reprinted, if it gets a first edition, it's going to be alternate art, such as the full arts of Revival Ooze, imprints.
Yeah.
All those plays a part, and I mean, Legions is an eternal format game, so that faces an additional challenge because it's not. I mean, it's not a rotation-based game, so everything's always legal, and
Which means you have to make those cards always available in some way.
yeah, and
Exactly.
therein lies a challenge for keeping collectability up. And I feel like you've been doing a good, like the way you did the reprints, which I'm still going to, even if they might not count towards the master set, I'm still gonna want to get all 8 of the reprinted.
Yeah.
But the way even with how, like, the way you did the reprints is really good. They're very clearly, well, they lack the foiling. They have the silver shield. That's
A different set code on them. They're very
different set
clearly.
code.
It's very distinct.
Yeah, and it's, so I feel like, I mean, if you for this, you probably need to take an example from Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to look at how certain cards, the original printing, still holds this value, and I mean, hopefully it will, like the original printing will still 10 years down the road will still hold its value, and the second printing will be, and then there will be the special arts or whatever, which will have their own value. And
Yeah. So speaking of those alternate arts and those things, another way for us to try and help the community, I'm sure you guys couldn't help but notice that our new stretch goals that we're putting into place, Having the very first one at only $5,000 more than the stretch goal. Those who are keeping track and have listened to the podcast and have been keeping track and following Legions up to this point, we saw 46,000 achieved on our first Kickstarter. Obviously did not see the full funding, but it gave us a really good benchmark from what the community is going to be put forward, how we can work with things and play within our means. And it was really good to setting a benchmark for how we move forward. So having the new Kickstarter coming in March with the $40,000 budget or the funding goal, since we saw 46, we should be able to achieve 40. And at that point, then having the 45,000, so just 5,000 more past funding goal, we unlock the Magic Void collection for all backers. So that includes the Exalted reprint alternate art extended art version of Magic Void Hollow, which is a card that everybody likes to have and play, but also 4 never before seen, never before printed other Magic Void cards coming as well. So all
Siphon?
backers will receive. Siphon is not one of them.
Ooh.
So there are 4 that you've never seen before that are coming. That'll also be there, and then the next $5,000 threshold after that for the next stretch goal is the entire Twilight Garden collection, which you guys have seen already.
Yeah, no, I'm.
So is it one of each,
so
or is it
excited.
full playset of each?
It's one of each. It's one of each.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Because they are renowns, right? So,
The
How
flowers?
am I
yeah.
supposed to get a second one of each of the renowned?
well, what we're going to be doing is that later on in another version, much like we've done before with an alternate artwork or a different treatment or whatever, we will see those cards be reprinted and included in other things. But everyone will have access to them, at least one copy of every single one in there. But at the same time, we're open to feedback if it's something that the community really wants the playset so much. So we'll be open to making those adjustments. But ultimately, it was there as a reward for our existing community and our great backers thus far, but also to add that chase collectability to Kickstarter that ultimately people want. So.
And
No,
just for reference, are the Twilight Flowers renowns or are they rares?
The Twilight flowers, the individual flowers, are all renowned. So just like the independent new Magic Void cards that no one has seen yet, they are all renowns as well.
Okay. And so what do these Magic Void cards do exactly?
Well, you know what Void Hollow does. So
I do.
they are going to. The only other Magic Void card that you've really seen here that's printed in the game right now is Magic Void Collapse, and Collapse is the absence of the Void. It's the collapsing of the Magic Void, so it actually functions different than the Magic Void cards. So in that regard, you'll see that these 4 new Magic Void cards that we will eventually spoil for everybody, they will follow the same suit like the flowers did for Gardens. They'll follow the same suit of following in line with the original Magic Void Hollow.
Okay. And one more question before I think we should probably call it here for the night.
Okay.
So, Malady, in Horrific Harvest, her dress is made from the Twilight Flowers, correct?
Yes, I know that was a community discussion, and it was a discussion point of whether people liked the artwork for that one, or if they thought it seemed out of place. And if it's supposed to be jarring and out of place and it really sets you off, that was 100% my intention. So the whole concept of Malady's Horrific Harvest, as you see her skipping through her flower field, her Titan corpse flowers are much, much larger than her. And she's jumping through with the double scythe. I wanted to tie in that old school Alice in Wonderland feel, where she's in a world bigger than her, and she changes based on her environment. But yes, her dress is a very, very stark, beautiful pinks and colors that don't fit the really monotone and the gringy, grimy tone of the background. And it's really jarring to look at from the eye. But it's a really good thing that you pointed that out, Matt, because if you look closely at the flavor texts for the Twilight Flowers, all of them have the same flavor text, and all of them are spoken by Marianas, the Corsair of Despair, which you guys in the community know that this is the pirate that travels around and steals from all the realms, and she will eventually become a deck of her own. And
Can't wait
but
to play
I,
Bounty.
in true pirate fashion, pirates don't steal for the sake of stealing. They steal for the sake to make money or some sort of bounty of some kind. So Marios isn't stealing the flowers for her. She's stealing the flowers for Malady.
Oh,
And does that
And
mean
that's what,
the flowers in Malady's deck are going to be useful?
well, the flowers obviously are going to be useful in, I think, every deck, but that's why we had that stark contrast of her bright pink dress in a very grim, dark, morbid world, because it's the concept of, it's kind of alluding to the fact of the bright flowers found on Twilight Gardens, that Malady is jumping through her sickly flower garden, trying to get Marianas to get those sought after hidden flowers for her. There's a lot of dark plans hatching in Empires on the Rise. Malady, using Marianas to collect flowers for her. And as we saw with one of the fractured foils already, is that Dux Fox lying in his deprivation chamber, and if you look closely in the fracture, you see that Decimea is on the other side, and she's communicating through Dux Fox to the ooze. So there's a lot of dark schemes hatching in Empires on the Rise, and that's only going to play forward into our darkest set yet coming after that with Masquerade and Macabre. So
I'm so excited for Masquerade.
oh yeah, no, super excited for Masquerade. Well, super excited for both Masquerade and Corsair. Um, oh, I did wonder. So one thing that I've noticed is so I know a lot of other games they do 24 packs per box.
yeah,
And I know, like, I've known one or two players like, oh, it's only 18 packs per box. Why am I getting less packs? And that's been a question that when I was I've been asked a few times when introducing the game to players. They were
yep,
looking at the stuff. So looking at the product lines.
yep.
So and that's just something that's come up a few times.
Okay.
So I guess two-part question. One is the logic behind it when so many other TCGs go for 24 plus. And the other is that box size predicted to change in the future?
Well, those of you that have listened and heard, I'm sure you probably have too, Jake. On the last one, we talked with Samuel about the golden pack ratio. So anything detailed based on how the packs are laid out, not necessarily the boxes, make sure you check out that podcast and listen to about the golden pack ratio and the stipulation and the formula that I have come across over my extensive research in the TCG space, but also just trying to adapt it and apply it into Legions. But when it comes to the boxes, we knew that industry standard for the most part, like you said, was 24, and that's the exact reason why we came out of the gate with Ravaged Lands at 24 packs per box. And they were 10 card packs because we were using a brand new printer at the time. They have a lot of printing experience, over 20 years of printing experience, but mostly with sports cards. So they didn't have a lot of experience with TCGs at the time and we were brand new to it as well in the whole printing and mass production philosophy. So when it came to that, the way press sheets are formed and the way uncut sheets are formed, I'm sure you guys have seen it through the uncut sheets that have been made available or that were visible at Fan Expo, that the actual rows were 10 across. So it made it very easy to make 10 card packs. Because then you could have a row cut, a row cut, a row cut. As long as the algorithm worked properly, you can make 10 card packs. So that goes into the whole golden pack ratio situation. And now we obviously turn that on its head with Empires being at 15 card packs. But when it comes to a number of packs per box, it also comes down to that golden pack ratio. Is we wanted to make sure that we wanted the right amount of packs per box to work with the set. And what we mean by that is oftentimes you'll see a lot of games where we have this thing called box chav and box anemia, something I also touched on in the previous one, but where if you crack open a box that has 24 or 36 packs in it, but the set size is only 180. Well, if you crack open and they're 15 card packs, times 24 packs, right? What, that 360 cards? Yeah, 360 cards, but the set size is only 180. Well, what happens then? You're left with a whole bunch of bulk, right? So and then you end up filling a closet. You have long boxes full of it. Stores can't get rid of it. You can use it as fire kindling most of the time, right? And to me, when I look at it, is I want the players in the community to get the most value out of everything that they buy, right? Now, inherently, when you buy something, you think it has more in it, which means I'm getting more value. But are you really? Right? And it's not a matter of me trying to retrain anyone in their way they're thinking, but it's the fact that I don't want people to open boxes and boxes of Legions and get upset with the sheer amount of bulk that is found in boxes. I'd rather them get the playable pieces they need to play the game and have a little bit of spare so they can deck build, they can teach, they can trade, because ultimately it's a trading card game. But I don't want people to be just like, going to a basement filled with bulk from the floor to ceiling, right? And to me, I found a lot of games were in that position where they overprinted cards or have too much of it. So that comes down to set size.
And I mean, I guess you see it all the time where you're at a tournament or a game store, somebody has opened a box and then, or not, it's not always even a box. They'll open a couple packs and they're like, open it up, take a look, pull one or two cards out, leave it on the table.
Yeah. And that goes into the designing of the TCG, right? I really think that I've done a decent job, and I've got great feedback from the community about Legions. Some of your most valuable game pieces and your most integral parts to playing competitively are found in the common and uncommon slot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember I got really so my sister had all the luck with the when we split the box. But
Yeah.
Even after that, I think I did not pull that the third prince.
Yeah,
I
and that's
remember that
an
being
uncommon, right?
yep, and
So
it was everybody was surprised.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I wanted to make sure that when you buy a box, I absolutely can't stand when people do box openings, whether it's in person or you're watching it online, and they get halfway through the box and now you're seeing all these duplicates.
Mhm.
Right? Now, obviously you want to form your playset, but I'm talking like extra duplicates.
Oh yeah, no, like the 5 copies of.
Yeah. So I really wanted to tie that in as the fact that you open one box of Legions, specifically now coming into Empires on the Rise, you open one box, you should get almost every common and about 3/4 of your uncommons and about half your rares, right? Because the average player buys 2 boxes usually, right? Specifically if they hit a couple big hits, they're like, oh, I want more, right? It's that Christmas feeling. So without trying to gouge the community, but also still trying to balance that fine line between people wanting to open product, but stores also being able to move product. Because if you open a box and you get everything in the box, you don't need to buy anymore. Therefore, means the store doesn't sell anymore, and that angers them, right? Because now they're sitting with dead product on the shelf, and that's not good for a relationship with the store, right? So the average player buys 2 boxes. So if you get 2 boxes of Empires, you're guaranteed to get all your commons, all of your uncommons, most if not all of your rares, and then because of our pull ratios on renowns got even better. Now you're getting 8 renowns in 2 boxes, right? And there's 20 renowns in the set, so you're already pretty much halfway there in 2 boxes. See what I mean? So it's something we really wanted to work on and fine tune, and that's why we have like the 18 packs per box is solely based on what the set offers, how many cards in the set. Now, quite simply, if I produced a set with 400 plus cards, you'd be damn sure that I would put it to 24 packs per box. 24 times 15 because you open 360 cards and you still don't get the whole set, right? In one box, which is great. That's healthy. Players expect a healthy amount of chase, but stores also expect to be able to move product.
Exactly. There's a fine balance that you gotta find.
Yeah. So I guess it boils down to it being the optimal ratio. Cards per pack, pack per box collection.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And we felt that was Ravage Lands, we wanted to set the status quo and put it at 24 because it was our new jump into the game, and we know people were used to that, and we don't want to change people's way of thinking. So that's how we did. And then we adjusted it as we went, and that's why that's one of the biggest questions I get. That's why we were asked what separates a booster set, an expansion set, and a blister set. Well, it's box and set size. It's basically like a small, medium, and large drink when you go to a drive-through, right? Your small being your expansion set, Bountiful Harvest, and the price reflects it, being a smaller set, cheaper to buy. Your expansion set, Frontiers, and then your blister set, Frontiers, and then your booster set, Ravage Lands, and now Empires.
Makes sense.
But going forward, we're going to make sure that we continue the trend of booster sets more so than anything else. And so always trying to make sure at the bare minimum you're getting that 240 to 300 cards in a box, because we know that's the industry standard. We can't retrain people's ways of thinking. We have to fit with the status quo, and we have to learn. But yeah, that's going to be most of it going forward, outside of a couple auxiliary sets here or there that we put out, like a Bountiful Harvest Season 2 when it comes around.
Looking forward to that. Hopefully it'll. I'm hoping it will shake things up as much as first Bountiful Harvest did.
Oh, for sure it will. I mean, making the return to Alberdun just automatically will make Viviana that much better.
I mean, I can only imagine how much Corsair it's going to shake things up when that comes out.
Yes.
Bounty having a playable warlord.
Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of great things on the horizon, but it all starts with Empires on the Rise, right? And let's get this set out. Let's get it out before Gen Con. Let's get that community back. Let's get that community growth that Jake's been working so hard at. And for those of you listening that are in the Toronto area, make sure you help Jake make that push, and let's land 401 Games as a retailer ally, and the sky's the limit at that point. So
exactly, just keep pushing as far as we can.
Oh yeah.
But with that,
with that, is there anything else, Matt? Anything else there, Jake, before we head out?
Yeah, I think I'm all good.
I think I'm good. Just look forward to meeting new people, playing games with them. Let's
grow this together.
Sounds good.
All right, Jake, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're waited patiently. We got a long list of people who signed up for the Legion's Lounge, so I appreciate you coming on, and of course all the hard work. We'll make sure that we get those extra promos out to you, and we'll also make sure that you get that another level of the ambassador program unlocked as well, because you're doing such a great job for us. So
thank you. Glad to be on.
So you can find this on this and all future episodes on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Stitcher. Basically anywhere there's a audio streaming service. So
and there you go, Jake. You're out there. You're
out there, man.
Well, thanks for having you on, and Matt, as always, good job tonight.
Thank you, man.
And for those of you listening, enjoy your Monday, enjoy your week, and make sure you join the Discord and learn more about Legions, because we got a lot coming in store for you. So
there's a lot of stuff. So with that, have a good rest of your day.
Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.